Hello everyone and welcome to a really awesome game from round 6 of the Superbet Chess Classic. It's a game between Levon Aronian and Alexander Grischuk, and it's a game that will most definitely improve your Sunday. It doesn't matter how good of a Sunday you were having, once you see this is a true masterpiece. As the title suggests, this is how Levon plays. He just... Okay, sometimes he has a bad game, like in the previous one where he played that one move and he lost the game to Mailbox. But this game is just incredible. Played by both of them. Both of them played an incredible game, and well, it's similar with most incredible games that the best parts of the game are never actually seen on the board. So that's why we like to analyze games, and especially when we analyze classical games. And this is a classical game, we see all the wonders that we might miss over the course of the actual game. So without further ado, let's check it out and enjoy this. I am at a lack for words. I would say brilliancy, but you'll see what I mean. So the one with the white pieces opens with d4, and it's not going to be a fancy opening or anything, just very normal stuff that we usually see. c4, e6, knight to f3, and d5. So just the usual queen's gambit declined. Knight to c3, and now d5. The Semi-Tarrasch is on the board. We have e3, and now knight to c6. We have a3, and now d captures on c4. Here you could play d captures on c4, c captures on d4 are very popular moves. a6 by far the most popular move in the position, but okay, here we have d captures on c4. Black wants white to play bishop captures on c4 and then use this bishop on c4 to further expand on the queen side here. So bishop captures and only now a6, preparing to play b5 with tempo, attack the bishop, and then develop this bishop to b7. We have castles by Levon, and now Sasha goes b5, so pushing the bishop back. Now bishop to a2. You could go to e2, but a2 is a bit better because the black king is still in the center of the board. You can see that black is wasting a lot of moves on rapid development. He's still not worried about king safety, and you want this bishop to be included in the fight for the central squares here on d5. So here we have bishop to b7, and now trying to exploit that the black king is still in the center of the board with d5. You want to open up the position. So e captures on d5, knight captures on knight captures on d5, and now not knight captures on d5, but rather bishop to e7. If you further trade it here, captures, for example, then it's going to be a little bit tricky for black to develop. For example, bishop to e7, you want a castle. White can already jump in with knight to e5, and now you already have some problems. You kind of have to give up the bishop pair here with captures, and now the rook cannot be developed to any normal square. You can't go rook to b8 because then the a6 pawn falls, and even if you trade, for example, captures, it's still well, it's very much playable, but, you know, white does have the bishop pair, so you might want to avoid this. So instead, we have bishop to e7, and now comes e4, cementing that knight here, and asking black, are you maybe interested in this pawn? But it would be very dangerous to grab this pawn. Rook to e1 is coming and could be a little bit tricky. So here, black castles first, but Levon still ignores the e4 pawn, and he just plays bishop to f4. So what do you play here? It's kind of a tricky position. You might have to worry about bishop to c7 attacking the queen, then the knight might come to b6, the knight can immediately come to b6, a lot of stuff to consider, and capturing here is just not what you want to do. Here, if you capture, it doesn't matter that the king moved from the center of the board. Rook e1 is still very, very strong. Problem is you cannot defend it with f5 because this diagonal is still open, so just let's say knight captures wins the game on the spot, you just grab a piece with a double check. And if you retreat, for example, knight back to f6, still not enough because, again, it loses by force. We're just going to play knight captures on e7 with check, knight captures, and then queen captures on d8. Remove the defender of the knight, and after either rook captures, we're just going to pick up this knight on e7, and we're up a piece, completely winning for white. So, just c4. Sasha says, all right, we're just going to completely log this bishop out of the game. You're going to have to first play rook to c1, or probably move the queen first, connect the rooks, then play something like rook to d1, then play bishop to b1 to include this bishop into the game. At some point, you're going to push e5, so a lot of moves to get this bishop back into the game. Rook to e1, now the e4 pawn is defended, and here there is one game played in 2020 in the Aeroflot Open between Shimanov and Abdusatorov that ended in a draw. In that game, rook to c8 was played, but here we have rook to e8 by Sasha, and it is now already, as of move 14, that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Levon continues here. He starts by developing the queen and connecting rooks. So queen to d2. Now the rook can be played to c1 to d1, and then slowly but surely we're gonna introduce the bishop back into the game. We have bishop to c5 by Sasha. The bishop no longer needed here. You wanted this on this diagonal here. You might even be able to harass the white king a little bit. And now as the bishop moved from e7, the knight is now only defended by the queen. We just pile up on the knight. Bishop to g5. And now here, Sasha might have thought that maybe this is a draw offer, so he played bishop back to e7. It is the best move. I mean, you don't want this ever being captured. Then you will have to, if bishop captures, you're going to have to ruin your kingside pawn structure. So bishop back to e7. And here maybe Sasha thought maybe Levon was just interested in going back. Then we go here, then we go back, then we go here. And a nice draw by threefold repetition. But after, like I said, after losing that game to Mamenyarov, Levon was not of a peaceful mind, and he played his signature move. You all know which move that is. That is, of course, h4. And now I believe Sasha already knew that this game was going to be a hard-fought one, so you have to prepare. So h6, he says, all right, you either trade here or you go back with the bishop. You also might sacrifice here. You do grab two very important pawns for the price of one bishop. But if you do this, for example, captures, captures, and captures, yes, you might have ideas of bishop knight g5. Then we capture this knight, remove the defender of the h7 square, then queen h7 check, queen f7 checkmate. It's all in the air, but after knight to h7, you can see now how the queen, the bishop, and the knight really control these two squares, and it's going to be very hard for these knights to enter the attack, and black will very, very successfully defend any attacks. So instead, after h6, Levon goes back, bishop to f4, and now comes bishop to c5. Now the bishop definitely belongs on c5. There's no more need for the bishop to be on e7 now that h6 has been played. And now the question is, do you play knight to c7? And here, I don't know how it all went down, but I imagine Levon did not spend all that much time considering this, because he's just not that kind of a player. He likes to create, and this is being offered, so that's not a move that Levon would play. And not only that, it's also a losing move for white. If you go hungry for material here and try to win material with knight to c7, black just wins here, and it's very interesting how black does it. So feel free to pause the video and try to solve this hypothetical situation that never actually happened while I give you a couple of seconds. How does black win this? So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding either of two moves, and there are some very interesting ideas. Knight captures on e4 is one of them, but even more interesting is rook captures on e4, and this is such a fine move that really shows the intricacies of the position. The problem now, okay, if you grab material, there is no other move you can play because then you didn't do anything. So after knight captures on a8, the problem is knight to d4, and this is just amazing. Look at all of these pieces in front of the black king. Look at the bishop pair. It's absolutely fully operational, and the queen can very easily join the attack. So now the problem is there really isn't a good move here. What do you play? For example, if we bring back the knight to c7, which does make sense. I mean, we've just grabbed the rook. Why not just go back with the knight? And what can black play here? The problem is black wins by force. Knight captures on f3 check, g captures on f3, and now, okay, the bishop still defends the queen, but you're not interested in the queen. Just rook to d4. And what can the white queen do now? We have queen to e3, and now comes queen to d7, and this is just incredible. If you look at this position, even if someone gave this position to you from this position and not from that position where Grischuk decided to give up that rook on a8, it would still not be all that easy to calculate. The problem here is white does not have a move. Let's say you play bishop to g3, just try and solidify, everything on the king's side. Queen to h3 is coming, and now there's really nothing. The bishop pair is still here, and there's no move you can play. You kind of want to get the queen away from this bishop, so let's say you play queen to e2. Now comes the incredible rook to g4, and that's it. white can just resign. You cannot capture the rook. If you capture the rook, then just queen to g2 or queen to h1 is checkmate, as the bishop on b7 is helping out with the attack. And if you don't capture the rook, well, then how do you defend against the rook captures on g3? The f pawn is pinned. The f pawn will not be able to do anything here. So there is no defense here. So this is only one of the lines that can come from the position that was on the board where Sasha offered this knight to c7 maneuver. But really just incredible. His setup very reminiscent of Rubinstein's Immortal game, and there are so many sacrifices that can happen here. In the end, Levon went with bishop to c7. It's also an incredibly tricky move. We have queen to c8, and now comes knight captures on f6. So opening up the black's king side, this comes with check, g captures on f6, and now queen to f4. So keeping an eye on the bishop, but still with a lot of pressure here. But there's still the question of how do you start an attack here? You don't really have any pieces here going after the black king. There's still the rook on a1, the bishop here is doing nothing. So what is Levon's plan here? Well, here Sasha has to be very precise, and here a move like knight to e5 is one that goes a long way. But here knight to d4 was played. Seems like it's similar. He wants to trade off pieces, and seems like it gets the job done. The problem is this helps white develop a bit too much, because now white gets to develop with tempo. Knight captures on d4, bishop captures, and the rook 8 to d1, which would not be possible if the knight, for example, landed on e5 instead. We have bishop back to c5. Bishop to e5 here is again the absolute best way to try and defend this. For example, bishop captures on e5. We're going to play f captures on e5, queen captures on h6, but now the black queen can enter the game with queen g4, defend against any threats along the g file. Also, you're just threatening to pick off this pawn. Maybe there could be an attack. So white is still better, but you know, rook to d6 is coming. It's gonna be a very active position for white, but maybe black will still survive this. However, here Sasha played bishop to c5 with the idea of shifting bishop back over to f8. Then you can defend this, and you know, it seems like everything is working out, but it's not. So once again, feel free to pause the video now in this non-hypothetical position and win the game for Levon while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on playing either bishop to b1 or just, you know, going for a nice check first with the queen, but bishop to b1 just gets the job done right away. Queen to g3, then bishop to b1 is also fine, but on this channel we don't give checks if, you know, the position doesn't require one to be given. So here, bishop to b1, and now we see the problem for black. Now this diagonal will open up, and this is going to be huge. It's still not clear how exactly, but it is happening. Rook can also be lifted very nicely. Okay, for the moment not, but you'll see how he plays it. First, a bishop to f8. You have to get a defender in there. If queen captures on h6, we're gonna play e5 and then bishop to h7. This is game over. There's no defending this. So here, bishop to f8. You have to defend against this, but now the e3 square has been freed, and now there can be a nice rook lift. So rook to e3. Preparing to bring the rook over to g3, bishop to g7, and now rook to g3. Now threatening queen captures on h6 because the bishop is pinned. We have king to h8, unpinning, and now e5. And this is where things get really interesting. I mean, things are already interesting, but like I said, this game is just creation after creation after creation. The problem now is black cannot even capture the bishop. If you capture the bishop, then okay, it seems weird, because how does white win this? I mean, okay, you could go for queen to f5, obviously, but there's even the quicker rook captures on g7. And this is just awesome. King captures, e captures on f6 check, and now okay, you are attacking the queen here that's undefended, but there's also just king h8 and queen captures on h6. You don't even have to capture the queen. You can just play this, and that's it. King to g8, queen captures, queen to g7 will be checkmate. So instead, after e5, you have to figure out how to defend against all of this. Queen to e6 was played, but it doesn't help him all that much. Now comes bishop to f5, chasing away the black queen, and now queen to e7. You could argue that why not just attack white's queen here? It doesn't work because queen to g4 now threatens checkmate. The only way to defend it is queen to f6, and now another nice rook lift. Rook to d6 attacks the queen, and there is no defense. There's nowhere where the queen can move to keep on defending the bishop on g7. And if you try and give up a little bit of material, still doesn't help. Just bishop captures, pawn captures, rook captures. Again, the queen has no squares. Queen to f7 still guards the bishop, but now comes queen captures on g7 with check, queen captures, and now bishop captures on e5, winning back the queen. And after captures, we deliver checkmate instead of winning back the queen. So there's also that. I mean, this is just incredible. So many incredible lines here. I'm only showing you the most impressive ones here. So here we have queen to e7, avoiding all of that, but now comes rook to d7, the last rook lift of the game, and it was in this position on move 29 that Alexander Grischuk resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So while you could try a few things, for example, captures here, attack the white queen, still it falls to the same idea that we've just shown. If queen to f6, rook d6, and everything repeats. Or after rook to d7, queen to f8 can be played, but this still doesn't work. Just e captures on f6, and again, there's nothing you can play here. You could capture this, but it doesn't help. Bishop captures on f6. Now we play rook captures on f7. Yep, that's what kind of a game this is. Queen captures on f7, removing the black queen from the defense of the h6 pawn. Queen captures, and now after queen to h7, we're just going to capture it with queen captures on h7, and this will now be checkmate. So this is one incredible game, and this is only a handful of lines, only the most impressive ones. The ones that I thought were most impressive are the ones that I decided to show you, but it has so many of them. And it all came down to that one move where Sasha allowed Levon to basically develop his pieces a bit more quickly with tempo here after this queen to f4, this knight to d4 move. With knight to e5, you don't get to play rook d1 with tempo, get the bishop into the game so fast, and this is how these top tier games are decided. You give him one free move, just the development of the rook, and that's it. Your entire position just deteriorates, and that's it. There's no turning back. So after rook to d7, Grischuk resigned, and Levon bounces back very nicely after losing that game to Mamedyarov in the previous round. So that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I for one thought it was super impressive, so I'm very happy that I was able to show this to you, and that it might have improved your Sunday at least a little bit. Although let's be real, it improved it a lot. I would like to thank Derek Lee, happy birthday Ask Paul, Avjit Banerjee, Sanko Tsolov, and the Western Carpet Cleaning Incorporated for contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this very nice tournament, checking up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.